because I have not seen our next guest since we hung out on the Sports Center set together, something I haven't said about anybody in 22 years. And we see Mina Kimes on all fashions of ESPN programming. Good to see you again, Mina. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm great, and I felt incredibly fortunate, blessed, thrilled, the honor of a lifetime. No, I mean, I was a thrill. It was such a thrill.
Her, you know what I mean?
No, but you don't have to tee anything up, Chris. You know, you don't have to tee a thing up. Certainly when it involves, well, whatever. It was great to have you that night. That was a blast. Like, honestly, I don't know how I was to you, but I was, it was. Like, I was out of body. I might have blacked out a couple times, just, it was wild. Mina,
I actually worried that I was not ruining it, although I'm sure some corners of the internet. No. I felt bad because how much I was laughing during your highlights.
But I like that.
It was.
You have no idea.
I was just like, I don't want to laugh so hard that people can't actually hear what he's saying.
No, but that's great.
So funny.
No, I did stand up in college, and it's not like it's the job of cohorts or anybody behind a camera on a set to laugh at anything that I'm doing.
And yet,
but and if I don't get that feedback, I think something isn't working. So I appreciate that, and I like that. That's normal, right? Like, you say something funny, I can laugh. I say something funny, you can laugh, and it doesn't matter if we're on TV. It's relatable to somebody at home. I don't mind that at all. Mina,
okay, good. That was the one thing I was like, I hope I didn't laugh over him doing
and again,
baseball highlights in particular were very funny.
But I mean, again, back in the Sports Center days, we would laugh at each other's stuff. And, Stuart would hop in all my highlights like nonstop, and that happened. But it was great. And I appreciate you being there that night, and what a game that was, too, that we were following of somewhat import of preseason, Commanders and Bengals. And now here we are on a night tonight where the Commanders are taking on the Packers. That's my first item up for bids for you, is how you think tonight's game is going to play out and what the key for this evening is.
I mean, what a Thursday night showdown. They must be grateful over at Amazon to get this one, especially after how the Packers looked week one. I think that's what I'm so interested in, Rich, is the Packers look like a Super Bowl team, right? Mm-hmm. But week one, it's hard sometimes to know how good are these teams without putting them in proper context. And the Commanders are going to be a true challenge for them, particularly the run defense. That's the key that I'm so interested in because, despite losing the greatest run defender of all time, Kenny Clark, if you ask Jerry Jones, the Packers, I feel bad. Kenny Clark's a great player, but the Packers run defense looked phenomenal against Detroit team that obviously was one of the best rushing attacks in football last year. Held them to under 1.5 yards before contact per carry, which was 27th in the league. On the flip side, the Commanders were third in rushing yards before contact last week against New York. So this would be like a strength-on-strength matchup, and I think we're going to learn a lot about both teams, but I'm really interested, is that Packers run defense as good as they looked week one? I think we're going to find out tonight.
And then I guess another question would be, is the Commanders defense as good as what we saw against the Giants, or is it the Giants offense? Oh, you're already shaking your head. The Giants offense where everybody in New York, New Jersey metropolitan area is looking where Jackson Dart is right now.
Oh, God.
Mina.
Well, that's a whole other we actually talked about that, I think, at the Sports Center, right? About Jackson Dart and how tricky it was to find a starting spot for him. But to focus on the Commanders defense for a second, I don't think so. I think that's one where it's like, okay, you got to face a pretty bad offense week one. And I think this is a massive challenge for Dan Quinn because, this Green Bay Packers offense under Matt LaFleur has chewed up his defenses. You remember the wild card game against Dallas where they put up like a 48 burger, I think it was, on them, and Jordan Love was just having guys wide open off of play action. That's my concern, I think, in this game, is that side of the ball, because I think Commanders offense versus Packers defense feels pretty evenly matched. I think potentially in this one, we're going to see that the Packers offense is too much for this Commanders defense.
Mina Kimes here on the Rich Eisen Show. You want to chime in on Seahawks? What you thought of their first week? Mina?
It kind of looked like what I expected, Rich, which is one of the best defenses in the NFL. I truly believe that. And I think the offense is just a work in progress. A lot of moving parts, a lot of change. I think Clint Kubiak wants to run a system where Sam Darnold is under center, play action, wide zone rushing attack. But it's one thing to want to do that. It's another when you're a little bit outgunned on the offensive line. I think you also saw, outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba, just not many answers in terms of that receiving group, and he locked in on JSN, and JSN was fantastic, but I think that's going to be a problem all season long.
Okay, so your level of concern for Sam Darnold is what? What do you think?
I'm not panicking because I don't think he played super poorly per se, but I also think he's so clearly in an inferior situation to what he was in Minnesota, and that's what it looked like, right? So I think it's just going to be, I think he'll be competent for them. I think there'll be games against inferior defenses where this offense looks good. I just don't think they have enough dudes out there. They need like one of the young players, whether it's a Torrey Horton or an Elijah Arroyo, to step up as a secondary pass catcher to Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp, maybe it's just another couple of weeks to see if they can get on a similar page, because that's the idea. That's why they paid him all that cash to come from Los Angeles, right? Like to be the man. And that didn't happen in week one, for instance.
I think it's going to have to be a youth movement there. And then you got old friend DK Metcalf coming to town this week. And I guess you could call it a revenge game, who I thought looked really good week one in that game against the Jets. And it's not like they chose Cooper Kupp over DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is making significantly more money than him, and they got third-round draft pick. But it is hard not to feel like this receiving group is missing something.
Mina Kimes here on the Rich Eisen Show. And then what's your opinion of Mac Jones coming in now? I was saying earlier on, Mina, that this is why you got him. You got him to perform well in a 2 to 5 week situation. And this is the guy that we all thought, a lot of people thought, the Niners were targeting when they moved up to third overall back in the draft in 2021. So they like him. Now it's time to win with him.
Yeah,
Ironic.
I am of the belief that Kyle Shanahan did always want Mac Jones, and because he just had a lot of the qualities, it seemed, as a prospect that Shanahan has been known to like in his quarterbacks. I question whether or not the situation around Mac Jones is good enough to enable this offense to keep rolling. We know Kittle's out. Watching them week ones against Seattle, the offensive line, to me, had a lot of problems. Brock Purdy was under pressure a lot. Admittedly, again, like I said, against a very, very good defense. The run game looked just okay with McCaffrey back. And, of course, you don't have Brandon Ayuk. Ricky Pearsall looked good. But this is not like Mac Jones getting into the Ferrari and getting given the keys. If this was a couple of years ago, I would feel very different about him being slotted into this. And of course, Kyle Shanahan's, one of the best play callers in the business, but this is not a great situation that he is stepping into. So I'm pretty skeptical of this Niners offense with him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you don't want to go to your backup quarterback just 2 games into a season. That's not why you have the backup quarterback, but it is in case of emergency break glass. I don't know. I feel like he is going to show up and show out, similar to when Darnold had his cup of coffee there in San Francisco, and that's why you go there, is to get the quarterback room and the Shanahan knowledge. And this is the type of quarterback that the Shanahans have been sort of looking at for a long time. And they do go to New Orleans, which did give Arizona some shots on Sunday. I'm just wondering if fourth place schedule, this is exactly the sort of thing that the Niners can get through before Purdy comes back.
The schedule's huge, and you're right to emphasize the New Orleans. The competition is big. Like they can absolutely win this game, in part because they're playing the Saints, who I really do think are probably one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. But when I think you go into this Niners season, you think there's no way they can be as hurt as last year. Can't happen.
Right.
Injury luck in the NFL doesn't work that way. And then it just happens again. And I know the schedule is bad, but I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine them winning a lot of games with Mac Jones. I could be wrong, and they might win this one because it's New Orleans, but I just don't think that the pieces around him are what they were a few years ago.
Mina Kimes, a few minutes left with our friend from ESPN and all the family of shows that on which Mina appears right here on the Rich Eisen Show on Disney Plus, the ESPN app, everywhere, and ESPN Radio. Week one moments, scenarios, narratives that formed that you're concerned about for the long haul. What's at the top of that list for you, Mina?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Chiefs, but not the offense, because I think the offense will be better when they get Rice back in particular, and the offensive line is young and they're going to play together. The defense was really concerning to me week 1, and I kind of think that maybe got slept on a little bit. With Justin Reed departing, there's this feeling it's the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo. They can insert any young cornerbacks back there and safeties, and everything's going to be fine. It did not look fine week 1 against the Chargers. Not enough pass rush, so they had to blitz, but then they couldn't cover behind the blitz, and you really worry. This week, you're going up against the Eagles, and I just don't know if they have the horses on the back end to compete the way that they have the last few years.
So to what do you owe such a thing? Because it's not like they've changed a lot. It's not like they changed coordinators. Could it be the Chargers are just that good, maybe? Who knows?
It's definitely part of it. I think the Chargers passing attack is really good, and Justin Herbert was unconscious in that game. But I also think Chris Jones, another year older, you're starting to lose. 1 year it's L'Jarius Sneed gone. The next year it's Reed gone. The Chiefs have been really leaning on young players, not even outside of McDuffie, who's amazing, highly drafted players. And suddenly it's okay, well, we don't have a lot of money invested on the back end of this defense. Maybe they're just not as good as we need them to be as these veterans start leaving.
And do you have an opinion on what the Giants should do at quarterback with Russ and Jackson Dart? Mina?
I'll tell you one thing. I have one very strong opinion, which is they should not put in Jackson Dart until Andrew Thomas is back and looks like Andrew Thomas. The schedule makes it really hard. This is what we talked about right on SportsCenter, because they got the Eagles, Broncos, Eagles week 6, 7, 8. So yeah, you kind of don't want him. There's no soft spots on that schedule. But for me, it's all about the offensive line. Until that offensive line looks competent, do not start him.
But what if the offensive line hasn't looked competent in the last decade and a half, Mina? You know what I mean?
There's the rub.
We could all get old and gray waiting for that, as Giants fans would point out. You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing, too. Remember last year with New England, we're like, don't put Drake May in. Let Jacoby Brissett take all the slings and arrows. He's not ready. He's not ready. And then they put him in, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's a possibility of an wait a minute. The thing that I'm looking to see is a pulse check of that locker room. If there's a large subset that gets larger that wants Jackson Dart in there, including Malik Neighbors, who talked about his resting face in front of the media yesterday, blaming, leaving his coach hanging, that he just looks angry when he's not. Maybe there's a there that would lead to Dart, certainly if they don't show up in Dallas again.
You can also argue that Russell Wilson's making the offensive line work. That's kind of a history there because he holds on to the football a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I just want, they don't have to be great. I'm not asking them to be, one of the better offensive lines in the league. You would just like to see some competent left tackle play because that's coming. That's the other thing, Rich. Thomas is going to come back, and he's an amazing player. So just let me at least see that. That's going to make me feel a lot more comfortable about putting the rookie in.
All right, last one for you. I'll ask you the question I asked Kurt Warner when he was on the program yesterday, Mina Kimes. It's sports talk radio and something you're used to with a topic bar and a split screen on ESPN. You can only choose one quarterback that played in MetLife on Sunday to say that week 1 performance is how we're going to see the rest of the year play out. Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, you have the floor. Mina Kimes.
Okay, so I want to start by saying I thought Justin Fields was fantastic. I thought he was actually the best quarterback in that game. However, I think what we saw from Rodgers is going to be what we're going to see all year long, which is really efficient quarterback play. He had a really low average depth of target. He was accurate, set his retrievers up to get yards after the catch, then hit a few kill shots off of the boots. That, I think, is something that's very replicable. With Fields, I just want to see it a little bit more as the season goes on. But boy, Rich, I thought Justin Fields was fantastic this weekend. That was, to me, one of the more shocking performances of week 1 because I did not have high hopes for the Jets offense, particularly coming off of the offseason, and they completely proved me wrong.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Fields, too. And maybe in Fields' appearance is what helped spark a run game as well. Mike Tomlin at his podium this week, as I mentioned a couple times already on this show, up until I'm about to say it again, it's very rare for the Jets to have played anybody in the last couple of years to leave a coach, let alone Mike Tomlin, say, we need to button up our run defense after that last game. And they looked really efficient. So if the Jets offense can do what it does, we already know the defense has studs all over the place, and we assume Aaron Glenn on that side of the ball is going to keep coaching them up. Like that's something to take a note of, Mina.
Yeah, they to me might be the most surprising team of 20. But again, this is week 1, right?
Yes, it is, of course.
But the ground game that you alluded to, you're right. A lot of it did have to do with Fields in the backfield because they were running just basically outside zone with him as a threat to keep. It looked great. The young right tackle, Armand Membu, against TJ Watt, I couldn't take my eyes off in this game how good he was. That feels sustainable. And this was the entire premise for the 2025 Jets. You have Justin Fields back there. He is one of the most dynamic dual threat quarterbacks in the league. Can you use that with your good suite of backs and all the invested in the offensive line to build a very good run game? Sure looked like it week 1.
Still, you just need to see more of it before you declare Fields. And we've already seen what we've seen out of Rodgers in the past. And I guess that's what you'd go with Rodgers in this regard. Okay.
Just from the, to answer, consistency.
Do you want to take a shot at tonight's game? Who wins? Before I let you go?
I'm on the Packers because of what I feel like is the discrepancy between them and the Commanders' defense. I think the other side of the ball is very evenly matched. But Rich, I got the Packers in the Super Bowl, and that was my preseason pick. So I'm probably not going to pick against them very often.
Well, who do you have in the AFC? Who do you have in the AFC?
I had the Ravens. I had Ravens Packers.
Brockman, you and Mina Kimes have the same exact pick.
Look at that.
Have you been watching Mina Kimes and stealing from her? Is that what's happening right now?
Very possible. Right yeah, very, very.
Sampling,
very,
as
very
Dan
possible.
Patrick likes
Sampling.
to call it.
Yeah, not straight off.
Mina, have a good NFL Live and your pod and everything else that you're doing. Let's do this again real soon. Thanks again.
Love it. Great to see you guys.
You got it. That's Mina Kimes, everybody, right here on The Rich Eisen Show.